Okay guys, welcome to this first Mindwork YouTube live painting session. Ciao Alessandro. I'm still trying to fix everything for the live. It's my first time here on YouTube, so give me a few seconds to set up everything correctly. Let me fix the last thing here. You can't hear me? Non mi senti? Ok. Hey guys, can you hear me now? La voce è bassa. Can you hear me now? It's better? Alessandro che sei in chat, che sei live adesso, mi senti meglio? Ok, ora dovresti sentirmi molto meglio. Ora? Molto meglio. Meglio? Yep, can you hear you fine? Can you hear me guys? I was just swapping my phone to the other one. Now it should be fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. I'm sorry for the trouble starting this live. Welcome to the first episode on painting Witchhorn. I just need to set up the last thing and then we will start to paint all together. Okay, perfect. We are live and we can start. Today, so first, welcome to this first episode. I will try to bring you some step-by-step information and step through the painting of Witchhorn 3. During this first episode, we will analyze the palette used by Gerald Brom, and we will try to reproduce the palette on the figure, starting to sketch all the composition and the values directly from the palette to the figure. I just post here in the screen the picture of Witchhorn tree because we will use as a reference for the whole process of painting. The first step is analyzing a bit the figure and the picture done by Brom. In this case, we can see and we can notice a very muted and limited palette. There is a huge use of greens and blue, but all of them are very muted and sometimes are very subtle tonalities. So we have to purchase on the palette something that is transparent and will allow us to work on glazes and on transparencies. The wall composition is pretty muted, dark and desaturated. So we will try to catch everything in a very limited palette. During this painting job, we will also analyze together all the brand new paintings tube from Mindwork. So we will check out each color, its technical specific, and all the features that they are usually working on. So let's try to create the palette. To start creating the palette, I will use this turquoise blue because it is our dominant color. If we look to the Gerald Brom canvas, we can notice that the turquoise is everything. It's included in the black for the cape, the background, the legs. I mean, the turquoise, greens and blue are everywhere. We will include also the phthalogen in blue because it's a very transparent color. It's a transparent color, and this kind of pigment is very strong, so it will help us to work together, the turquoise blue, to make it darker and also more transparent, since this color is opaque. So we are literally playing with those two colors to create all the blends and shadows and lights we need for at least the general tonality of our figure. On the other side, to bring up all the skin tone colors and bright tonalities, we will include the yellow oxide that will help us mixing together the turquoise to bring up tonalities for midtones and to prepare the skin tone. We will include, of course, white and black. White and black. And then we could include a bit of magenta or red just to warm up a bit some specific area of the figure. In this case, I prefer going through inaugural magenta that will be very useful also to make the turquoise more dark or more strong. So we will try to paint the whole figure, at least the main surfaces of the figure, using only this palette. Usually when I start to arrange my palette, I try to bring a lot of black and white because I will use a massive dose of those colors during the painting process. Then we have our main color here, the turquoise blue. A bit of blue. A bit of yellow, and for last, our quinacridone magenta. I lost my brushes. No, okay, I have my brushes. Of course, guys, feel free to bring questions or doubts during the call, the live, because I'm here also to answer to all your doubts about painting or maybe the colors or whenever you want. Welcome Daniel. So, let's start to create the main color that we will use for our figure. I will try to obtain something dark. Oh, of course, I literally totally forget to include as well the phthalogen in green. It will be very important. I included turquoise to move from green and blue. So we have the turquoise as a main base color, and then we will use the blue and the green to create all our shades. So now I try to create a sort of blending made of color literally here on the palette. So during the process will be very easy for me just pick up from the palette and apply on the figure. Hello, good afternoon from Texas. In Italy it's dinner time, but I mean the perfect time to paint after a very long day of job. Ciao Daniele, mi ero soltanto di salutare Daniele Blanco, ciao Massimiliano. Oh, we are already 32 persons here. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you guys. Hi from Missouri. Hello Ken. So now I'm just playing with color to create my basic value that I will use on the wall figure. So from the dark blue green shade here to the bright green that we will use as a sort of basic color for the skin tone. And especially speaking of the skin tone, from this color here we can start to bright up a bit. A sort of skin tone color mixing together magenta and yellow. Will this model be released in the store? No, sorry. I mean, this figure was an exclusive that we produced last year during the Gerald Brom Kickstarter. We are now in the middle of fulfillment, and I mean, try to check it out for some shops all around the world, because we also sold to many stores. So it will be never released again on Mindware Games web store, but probably, if you are lucky, you can catch this figure on some retailer. Okay. This is my basic approach to any kind of painting session. I love having this approach because it will save me a lot of time during the process, because I will not spend time looking for colors, but will be very easy for me going just to pick up from the palette and literally move the color from the palette to the figure. Oh, tragedy. Yes, I mean, if you lost the Kickstarter, it could be a bit tragedy, but again, don't worry, because we sold few hundreds to some stores, so maybe once the store will receive their stock, we will make some announcement about the few limited copies the store has in catalog, and maybe you will be able to take this. Welcome, Andrea. We have another question by Michael Bergon. You aren't afraid that the paint will dry on your palette. Well, I'm not afraid of that because specifically everybody, but specifically those colors here, are specifically formulated to last a lot. We did several tests and those colors stay on the palette in that way for at least 1 week if you close the palette. So usually I prepare my palette just 1 time per week and I paint every day with the same palette without going to add more color or water. During the last days of the week sometimes I will start to feel the color start to dry, but I just need to put a very little drops of water on the surface that I will be able to restore the color very quickly. And the second reason why I'm not afraid is because I'm living in the southern part of Italy on the coast. And here the moisture is very high, so it's very difficult having a fast drying from the palette, especially the wet palette. So we have water under the surface, we have a lot of moisture in the air, and the color is a kind of color that lasts a lot. You will see that this kind of color is going to have to feature a lot of a very long time of drying process. I like this approach, but doesn't that mean that you need to paint it in one setting? Well, no. I mean, again, I am able to paint with the same palette for at least 1 week. And if the week after I feel the color too dry, I will just put a bit of color upon and I will try to restore, because those are not going to get totally dry. Of course, if you are living in a desert or like for example Las Vegas, it's totally different. But again, also in a very dry environment, those colors are working very well. It seems this heavy body acts similarly to oils. Yes, the entire line of Mindwork Heavy Body has been formulated following my preferences. I love painting with oils, so the idea was to try to create something, a sort of hybrid between the fine art heavy body and the miniature color, the common ones. Following a bit the possibility to blend them on the surface like a sort of oil. Of course, those are full 100% water-based acrylics, but they are working very, very similarly to the oil. So, now that we set the color on the palette, we can start to sketch directly on the figure. For this step, I usually approach it with a very huge and flat brush, like this one. This will allow me to brush stroke very quickly and to start to define the first volume. So, let's start to apply the first brush strokes. We will use the reference here as a sort of guideline. In this step, I don't need to be, I don't need to cover completely, and I don't need to be too much precise. I just need to apply few layers of color that will help me a lot later. As you can see, I try to follow the reference and I just start to apply the color on the surface of the figure without taking care too much about dilution or painting details or something like that. I just need to start to apply the color. Is the figure primed? Is primed with a very thin layer of very light gray primer, something like that, I don't remember. Oh yes, this one. AK fine primer gray. It's very smooth, very good one. But I just sprayed a very thin layer, so the primer is not going to cover 100% of the surface in a very saturated way. I just need a very few primer upon the resin to let the color stick on it. Also because the figure produced by us are not removed from the molds using any kind of detacher or any kind of release agent. So you don't find any kind of oil or something like that on the surface that will avoid the color to stuck on the figure. You can also paint them without primer if you want, but of course during the time you could experience some kind of issues about the stick of the color on the surface. So every time I suggest to use at least a bit of primer. Yeah, basically I'm literally sketching on the figure, especially because I need to understand the volume and I need to understand all the colors that I will go to use later. So in this moment I'm just sketching and I'm just trying to create the mood and environment, the atmosphere that Gerald Brom painted on the canvas. So I don't know if the camera is able to catch it, but again, the surface is still very wet, and if I want to start to blend upon it, I can do very quickly and easy, just doing that on the surface, and the color will start to mix in a few seconds. So you can see how here, that is the first area I started to sketch, the color is still very wet, and it's very easy for me to sketch and move and make blends. Spray can primer versus airbrush primer, what's your preferences and why? I do not have any kind of preferences, and sometimes I prefer using the primer by airbrush, sometimes by the can. Usually I use the can because I forget to prime the figure in time, so I have to be very quick, and the can usually saves me. I mean, I literally primed the figure 2 minutes before the live. I was sitting here, I was ready, and then I just remembered that, oh damn, I need to use a primer at least. But then depends by the project. Sometimes I prefer working a lot with airbrush. Also trying to do a sort of sketch by airbrush if the project is huge and is massive. This figure is not too much big. It's something that is quite easy to control by brush. So I will use the airbrush during the process, but at the moment I don't think. How do you tell when the paint should be left alone so there is no rip or create texture or bumps? Oh, yes, you have to leave the color drying in peace. I mean, going there to rest up for a while, to not going to touch during the final step of drying, otherwise you will go to peel off the surface. But in this case, with those kind of color, you can be a bit more free. You can paint a lot, and you will not have any kind of issue. I mean, we literally formulated them for this kind of process, so it's very easy having them ripping off from the surface. I usually prefer painting with a very dark base, but specifically for the live, I choose a very light primer to show you every brushstroke. Otherwise, everything will be very subtle, and I was not sure that the camera was able to capture every single brushstroke. So I can play with very diluted color in this step, because I don't need to cover completely everything. I just need to start to create the mood. Hello Mateus, from South Africa. Wow! Is there some community of painting in South Africa? Usually I try to skip all this step of going to cover everything in black, starting from a black base, but in this case we are going to from the opposite, so it's very important going to paint with black. All the recess and very hidden cavity. This is a very common mistake that usually beginners do, is to leave very few white dots around the figure in a very specific part of the figure, some kind of recess, some kind of very hidden, maybe also difficult to reach place. But if you not cover with black those areas, your figure will still look very weird. And so my suggestion is try to cover 100% of, not try, you have to cover 100% of the surface. And especially in very dark recess, you have to full with black. This is very important and will help you a lot to have a quick nice looking figure in very few steps extra. So the same for the owl, I will use a very dark yellow as a base coat. Very close to the same color I'm using for the skin tone. So in this way everything will result linked together. This is something that I love a lot. I mean, usually I try to keep everything on the palette very limited. I will try to use the same color for multiple subjects to have a sort of same palette, same base coat, so each area will work very well together each other. This phase is always magical to watch. Why? This is something weird. Why this phase is magical to watch? I mean, I usually think that this is the worst part during a live session because, of course, we are not painting at all any kind of details, so it's very boring to watch. So to speed up a bit the process, I try to... Oh no, my compressor is off. I will use the airbrush just to have a quicker drying process. Okay, here sometimes during the paint job, if you start to have those areas where the color starts to accumulate too much, you just need with a bit of wet brush, with a bit of water, to blend it over and then leave to dry. But try to not let dry that amount of color in the rest part. Because by working with a limited palette, you are already able to establish the mood of the figure, even if not much of this phase will be visible in later stages. Yes, I mean, of course, we are doing a very long job here, just sketching, and honestly it's more for my mind than the final result. I mean, I need to do that because I need to explore the figure, I need to explore the palette, I need to enter in the mood of the figure. And if I do that straight working on details, I will never be able. Otherwise, I will be literally lost in the detail. If I start to paint something, I don't know, from the face, I will be stuck there for, I don't know, half a day to refine the face, and then I will lose all the interest for the other parts of the figures, because will be weird for me starting back again. So working in that way, in a sort of holistic approach, I'm able to touch constantly every part of the figure to adjust the value and to paint the part of the figure that is going to interest me more. Well, it's nice to see the whole process of how you build the atmosphere. Yeah, this is literally everything about atmosphere. Atmosphere and palette composition. That's because for me, atmosphere is one of the key points of a very good paint job. I mean, I usually prefer a very atmospherical paint job than a technical one. So I'm not the first fan in the world of, I don't know, textures or freehand. I love them, but honestly, when the atmosphere of a figure is going to capture me, it's done. Okay, let's try to cover at least all the skin tone to show you how I will start to sketch on it. Because at the moment I'm just sketching the whole figure, but I'm not thinking at all about a specific area or a specific subject. So, for example, I'm just starting to check the value, and I have to push a bit more darker area here below. A bit more of blue and green here on the legs. And also if I'm doing something that I will go to cover later, it helped me because I will obtain a more harmonic value working on those area already painted. So for example, going to bring a bit of blue in this area will allow me to make nicer filters blue later on the skin tone. Especially for the skin tone, I literally avoid any kind of pre-made color set of skin tone or something like that, because those are really fake and usually do not bring you to any kind of the desired results. Of course, if you are painting an army, it's totally different, but if you are going to paint display figure or a canvas or whatever you want, digital art, going to pick up the skin tone color usually bring you to a very repetitive and a bit, weak kind of skin tone that seems fake to pinkish. Instead, I prefer trying to bring in the skin tone all the color I can. More color I can bring into the skin tone, more will be easier for me bring the skin tone to life. Oh, I guess that we will not resist making a light effect here, so for sure I will try to create some bouncing light, but very subtle, because of course those are small candles in a not closed environment, so it's very difficult that those are going to bright up an area, so maybe I will just create in this area here from the candles a very subtle and thin light effect. Okay. Again, using the flat brush stroke, sorry guys, using the flat brush, I'm able to follow the volumes of the skin tone. So, for example, painting this leg, this part here, I will not paint in this direction, but I'll try to follow the convexity of the shape. This will help me to define volumes since this first step, and also to have a nicer and a smoother kind of blending. Now again, I have to try up Okay, now I have to dry very well the surface because I will go to use the airbrush to spray from the part below of the figure with black ink to start to create intensity in terms of contrast among the painted by brushstroke surface and the flat surface painted by the airbrush. And I will also quick cover all the darkest area with a very thin ink, black ink. Okay, on the back as well, there are some spots of color, a bit too thick, so I go there with a bit of water just to move and to dilute them on the surface to avoid that the color will dry there wrongly. Okay, it was literally for getting this area here that should be covered before we start to paint with the airbrush. Okay. Perfect. So we have here this first step where we just played some color, but I'm already seeing what I will do later on the surface. So this is something that helped me to explore the figure, to start to understand better the volumes and the values. Let's move now on ink painting with airbrush. I will use my favorite inks for this step. Liquitex ink. The Liquitex inks are my favorite ones and are the ones that are more smooth and not for my taste. Specifically some kind of color tonality. So I will use turquoise deep and the muted green plus a bit of black. And black. I use them just with a bit of water. I don't use any kind of thinner or other chemical things because usually you are going to anyway to change the chemical composition of the color, so I prefer to use as much as more pure from the tube or the pot. So first step with a bit of black. To do that, usually I take the figure in that way from below, from the base, and I start to very gently spray over the surface, going to cover very few spots, just to help me to be sure to cover with black all the recesses. In that way I will also obtain a first shadows that is literally going to automatically appear because of the inclination of the airbrush. Like for example here on the body, I just generated these shadows here. Okay, on the back we still have to help the wall drying process. So again, those colors are drying very slow. That will help you a lot if you are usually struggle with blending or going to obtain a blended surface. So this kind of stuff will help you a lot. Okay, do you usually not use a mask? Never use a mask for airbrush because I use very few drop of color, and I'm at least the minor carry body are completely not toxic. I don't know for the Liquitech ones, but I think the same, that those are not toxic color. May produce allergic reaction, but I mean again may, and the amount of color that I use is very little. I mean there are few drops of color with a lot of water and are brushed very close to the figure, so I never had the smell or something like that. And the PSI, I don't know the PSI that I use. I have to check. Okay, on the valve of the compressor is giving me 3.2 of pressure. But honestly, I never thought about the pressure. I just use a lot of pressure. I know that it's not too low, it's pretty high, but I mean, I don't care. I just use in this way from the beginning, so. So after this first step by airbrush, I start to paint over again with the flat one. In this case, I will try to start to sketch something a bit more precisely. So for example, I will start to do something like that here. Let me zoom a bit. Okay. we start to enter in a bit of sketching details. So look now how I'm literally using the brush in two different ways. We can use this kind of brush in this way or in this way. So the same brush can produce two different kinds of brushstroke. And if you start in that way and then you turn, another kind of. So sometimes you can also start to paint a volume very flat, and then you turn the brush to create a line to close the detail. So for example, here on the body, I can start to do that, and then I use it as a sort of a very thin brush to define the first volume. Again, I try to follow the volumes. In this case, I literally ignore the hairs because at this moment I'm not painting those kind of details. I will try to paint first the skin tone and second the cape. I prefer painting first the skin tone because all the skin tone will be quite finished. In the meantime, I'm going to finish the skin tone. I will be able to handle the figure in that way, so I'm not taking care of ruining the surface of the black, and because it's very comfortable handling the figure in that way. Once the skin tone will be quite refined, then I will start to move on the cape. I will fix the miniature on the base, and then I will start to paint all the other parts of the figure. But of course, for at least the most important part, I won't paint very relaxed and very comfortable. So again, look now how I try to follow the volumes, following also the mascot stripes that will enhance again more the realistic results on the skin tone. Oh, I forgot a comment. Matteo lives on paint fumes. Yeah, that's true. Probably, yeah. That's my secret. Smelling fresh color every morning. Okay, this is one of my favorite moments in painting when I start to blend over some already painted area to create the first volumes. And it's very easy, I mean, using a very thick color that is not going to dry quickly, you can start to play on the surface in that way. Okay, let's start to paint with black also all the other areas. So slowly we are going to cover 100% of the surface. But again, with very few brushstrokes, no kind of control, we are already starting to have a lot of color inside the cape. We have some kind of blue, greens, shades. I mean, it's still a sort of underpainting, a sort of sketch, but I'm already able to see some of the main volumes, so my painting journey will be easier now. Can you describe the long-term process that you will use for this model? Do you plan on building the light gradually under the more saturated base layer? I'm usually painting everything like that. I mean, I'm going to paint everything all together, going to move from skin tone to cape, cape, skin tone, details, face, whole, the base, because I will try to build up the figure by painting. So my long-term process is to be more close to the reference there, and because it's a sort of tribute, this is a little tribute, so I will try to put something of myself for myself inside the paint job. I will not going to do a copy, but I want to keep the same atmosphere of Gerald Brom painting. The long-term process is literally to enjoy the process. I mean, I don't like to plan completely the whole process. I have an idea in mind. I build up the palette, so the palette will help me to stay focused on the project. Because one of the most common issue in miniature painting is to get lost in the oceans of tubes and color do you have on your desk. Here around me you don't see, but there are I don't know how many hundreds of color from different companies and different kind of mediums. If I try to paint using them, going to pick up them during the painting process, I will get lost. And especially for the long-term project, I need to have a very limited palette that will help me to stay focused on my goal. So honestly, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about which kind of color and why. I prefer building during the process. But yes, generally speaking, I usually prefer going from a very saturated base to a desaturated one for everything. So usually I prefer to paint from midtones to the lights, and then at the end of the process going to paint with very dark shadows. Of course, this model is mainly painted with very dark colors, so for the shadows we are going to use very deep and gloss finish black color to increase the contrast effect among the matte black color and the glossy one. This is a sort of trick that I use usually to paint the black. Having not much space for value, painting the black, otherwise I will start to paint gray tonalities. I try to use the very dark gray only for the highlights, the matte black, a bit grayish for the midtones, the matte black for the dark midtones, and then I will use a very glossy dark black for the shadows, using the contrast among the matte surface and the satinated and the glossy one. I will be able to create a lot of contrast and differences inside the same color. Okay, let's start to sketch a bit more this area here. Now I changed the brush to a smaller one that will help me to stay a bit more closer to the volumes. But again, I'm not taking care about airs or something like that. I mean, my first goal here in this step is enjoying the process. Because this is something very free, I'm not taking care about anything. I'm just going to sketch and create. I mean, this is the most creative process for me. In this process, I'm going to create something that it's mine. Because once I will have this whole process already done, I will just going to refine and refine and refine, but the creativity will end at some point. And you will have just to refine the job. So this is the most important and creative step, in my opinion, where you are literally free. So again, I will like to dry again, and then I will start to a sort of never-ending process of the sketching, airbrush covering, and refining. Okay, let me clean a bit the airbrush because I will start to use other kind of inks, and I don't want the black color. It's going to literally push down the bright tonalities. Hello Benjamin, welcome. Okay, let's move to filter everything with a bit of turquoise ink. As you can see, those are usually my wall tools for the paint job. I mean, usually people are thinking that I'm going to use, I don't know how many different kind of brushes, different kind of thinner or colors. It's very simple approach. I mean, I try to use a very few object, very few tools, and I will try to focus on the way I'm going to use them. Okay, for this filter I will use a lot of water because I want it very subtle. And I'm going to use it to bluish the wall figure, because I was feeling that everything was going to be a bit more green, so I tried to restore using a bit of blue. Okay, now I will introduce the only kind of chemical bottle or reagent I use, that is the matte varnish. I use usually during the process of painting, because using a lot of heavy body, a lot of inks, sometimes the surface becomes too much satin. So satin is also a bit glossy, or sometimes it's not easy to paint over. So when I feel to need a bit of extra help, especially to start the color on the surface, I go to use a bit of this matte varnish to help me. So I just spray over. Okay. In this case, I literally cover all the lights and midtones with this kind of matte agent that will help me to paint over and over. I try to avoid to use it in the shadows or in the very recessed part, because I don't want to have them too matte. I prefer having them a bit glossy or satin. Now again, I will use another ink, the muted green, to restore a bit the satin, especially in the shadows. But I will try to avoid to touch any kind of highlights or high midtone. Okay, I am quite happy about this first result because I'm starting to be ready for the next one. The few things I'm not happy about are some kind of recesses there that are still too bright and white. So before going further on the next step, I have to cover them very well. Okay, this is a bit difficult part because I have to fill with very dark color this area here without going to touch too much the belly and the leg. Okay, here I just had a very, oh no, this is something that sometimes happen if you don't shake very well the the matte varnish. And since this bottle here was literally sleeping since a couple of months, probably I didn't shake it very well, so okay. Well, as you can see, I just ruined this area, but I literally do not care because I'm just going to paint over. And it's done. And it's very easy, especially because I have the palette here that is quite ready to assist me going to pick up the right color for this purpose. Man, I want to run out of work and go to paint so bad. That's good, that's good. This is a very good result for me. If I'm going to bring more to you more interest going to paint, to enjoy the painting process, I will be very happy. This is probably my biggest success for this kind of activity. I am starting to do this kind of live 2 times per week, just to share with you behind the scene figures and projects, painting process. And I mean, if you have any kind of proposal, please just mail me or contact me on Discord, because we can bring on the channel whatever we want if it's interesting for the community. Okay, and now I start to do a second kind of sketch on the skin tone. To brighten up all the midtones. So now I will try to avoid to touch too much the shadows, but I will try to create a lot of different midtones from greens and blues till to a very bright color that will be the main basic color for the skin tone. So in this case I will be very strong in terms of upgrade our lights. Okay, this is my general approach for every kind of painting process. I want to be very free. I don't like to think too much about rules or results. So I'm literally enjoying completely every step. Let me zoom in a bit to show you better what I'm going to do now. Also going to choose the right proper color. For me it's very easy because I'm going just to pick up from the palette. I'm not thinking about, oh, I have to build up my secondary midtone or something like that. I just look at the palette and I just pick up from the palette the right one. So looking on the reference, I won't bright up also the legs, especially on the top, but then I have to blend them into the blue. So here, for example, I'm literally blending the blue and the bright color together directly on the surface of the figure. And since those are color very smooth, very heavy in terms of the consistency, but they are smooth finish, I'm able to blend them together very easily. And they are not drying at all, so I can work wet on wet for a while. Like that. And I will do the same for the darker blue part on the legs. So in this moment of the painting I'm just relaxing a lot, so sorry if I'm not speaking, because when I start doing that I completely enter in my painting paradise. I'm just enjoying the process of the blending and moving the color. So I'm very focused now, but it's not a kind of focus that requires me too much effort in terms of thinking about what I'm doing, but it's very, very funny moment. Again, because having everything so raw, not refined, gives me the freedom of changing constantly everything. This is something that I'm looking a lot in my painting, because maybe I can change idea tomorrow morning. So when I approach the figure, if I'm going to change something, will be very easy, because I will have nothing refined, nothing defined. and I will have a lot of freedom doing that. I will not worry about that. So sometimes a lot of people asking for me for feedback on work in progress figure are stuck in some kind of event or moment of the paint job because they don't know how to change the things, because they realize that they are not loving anymore what they've done, but they don't know how to change it, avoiding to ruin maybe a completed surface. The best question here, the best answer that I can give you is do not refine anything during the beginning step of painting. Wait for a while, enjoy a bit. So I have to connect my computer to the energy, otherwise it will shut down automatically and we will lose the live. So as you can see, I'm trying to bring up everything about the midtones. So I will not going to focus on some area and starting to brighten this area and this area, and step by step I will arrive to this kind of very pale white color for the skin tone, but I will keep in the underpainting, in the undervalues, all those brushstroke and colors that I'm including now. And at the end of the story I will obtain a very rich, very complex skin tone, but without the suffering of doing that maybe by glazes or something like that, that usually require a lot of concentration, a lot of technique, a lot of skills. I'm not a skilled painter in terms of techniques. If you ask me to paint something by glazes, I will never be able to do that. So I prefer painting everything that way that gives me the possibility to make little mistake constantly during the painting process. Okay, I'm starting to be thirsty, so I have to drink myself. This is something that happened to me constantly during the painting session. I start to paint for a couple of hours and then I risk to literally collapse because I'm not drinking anything at all. Hey chat, you are very silently in the last moment. Are you sleeping or focused on my process? By the way, thank you guys because I was not expecting at all a lot of people joining the first episode here. Also because I was not really sure about the technical result of the live, but I'm figuring out that the quality of the video is pretty good, right? It's my first time on YouTube and I did it because you asked for. I was thinking to do on Discord or Twitch, something like that, but then most of the people asked me to start to run the live here on YouTube, and here we are. Also painting, cool. Who is painting now in this moment? I'm very curious about your routine. So, where are you from, Benjamin? I guess France? Hello John, welcome. Oh, you did it. I remember that you was telling that you was not able to join the live, so I'm very glad that you are here. I'm really enjoying watching the painting process and everything is crystal clear. Oh, this is very good feedback because I was very worried about the sound and how the camera was going to catch the quality and the process. I'm very curious, people, where are you from? So please, if you want, just say hello and just say where are you from, because I'm very curious about the reach of for countries of doing live in that moment of the day. So I'm very curious if there are some Italians or maybe Americans or from someone from Asia. I'm really curious about that. I know that that Alessandro is from New York. Yes, I'm Cumulo. Oh, wow, perfect. Sorry, Benjamin, but I'm terrible with names and nickname. That's the reason why my nickname everywhere is every time Matteo, my name. Otherwise, I will probably forget my own nickname. So I never use a nickname. Yes, I guess. So France-based. Oh, we have Geoff Davis. Hello, I'm here in Halifax, in Canada. Wow, from Canada. I have been following along since the stream started. I paint all day in my studios. I've been painting along while listening to you. Oh wow, that's awesome. Oh, there is Frédéric Bissin from France. Welcome. So there are people painting listening to me. This is quite weird. I mean, thank you. Maybe we should also try to create some kind of painting jam session on Discord where we chat all together. Maybe that will be very interesting experiment to do sometimes. Because I know that I'm not very good to entertain, but I mean, that's my bigger limit that I'm trying to phase off. I mean, thinking last year to do the same on camera here was quite impossible. I took a lot of time to convince myself doing that. So if one day I will stop and disappear, you know why, but I promise I will not try to do that. I will try to stay focused on the reason why I am here, because I'm really enjoying to share with you guys my processes. Seth Cross, welcome from the States. Not weird at all. Hearing your philosophy and reasoning behind your decision is very interesting. Thank you so much, Geoff. Yeah, I mean, I took everything very philosophically, also in terms of painting, but also in terms of company leading, and that's all. I mean, the main reason is enjoying, loving the art process. So this is the most important part for me. I'm very curious about where you are coming from, and if there are someone from Italy, because usually I have a bigger reach in the States and very little one from my country. So I'm very curious about hearing about someone from Italy that is watching me now, because I don't know either if someone is watching from Italy now. Well, yeah, you just touched the point. I mean, motivation in painting is essential, and in the past I was losing very easily the motivation to finish a project, because honestly I feel very bored by something quickly. So I'm not able to paint for more than 2 or 3 hours something. I have to swap constantly among the projects, also among different kind of tasks. That's the reason why working with the company allow me to do on the same subject multiple tasks. So for example, a bit of art direction, and now I'm starting to paint over your figures in my feedback channel in the Discord, and I found it very interesting because I'm going to help you, but I am going also to teach to myself to analyze and fix and making proposal for creativity. So it's a kind of exercise that is not passively made by me, but it's something that I'm literally doing in a very active way, because I'm living the process of learning from the from analyze mistakes done by others. And in that way I'm going to learn a lot also by myself and on myself. Yeah, lack of motivation could be sometimes something that is going to kill your process, kill your creative side. This is my personal opinion, but I found that miniature painting sometimes is a bit too much, demanding by the painter, because in other forms of art there is more freedom about the result. A lot of miniature painters are stuck waiting for high results from the community. My suggestion is don't give a fuck about that. I mean, just paint, enjoy the process. Don't be stuck thinking about what the community could think about your paint jobs or of you. Just enjoy the process, just thinking about that. And if you don't want to finish a piece, leave it as a sort of sketch. You don't have to finish everything. There are many illustrators and concept artists that usually does a lot of sketches for warm up and maybe for exercise, but it is very difficult finding someone that is going to sketch in a miniature just to sketch, just to learn something by sketching. And this is something that is a bit sad on my opinion, because sketching without thinking about the refined result will give you freedom and will also stimulate your creativity. So just my suggestion, try to sketch something. If you like a bust, if you like a figure, you don't have to finish it. You don't have to paint for competition. You don't have to finish to show to other people your best results. Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can just explore the painting process. And it's something very, very funny, very interesting in terms of feeling and how you start to think about the paint job, thinking about the painting. Hello, another guy from Toronto, from Canada. Wow. There are many people from Canada as well, but still no one's from Italy, right? We don't have any Italians in live now. So again, with those kind of acrylics I'm using now, everybody from Mindwork, I can do everything from sketching to refining to glazes, because since they are heavy body, they are giving me the freedom to paint in a very different way, because I can use them thick, I can use by airbrush, I can use them wet on wet, I can use like a sort of glazes like I'm doing now here, because I won't start to sketch also the cape a bit, because I need to adjust the value very close to the skin tone to adjust the skin tone and do not be completely lost closing myself on the skin tone task. That sort of sketching on a mini is how I start each painting day. 10-20 minutes on a cheap model, sometimes with a color idea in mind, something with no idea at all. It gives us a refreshing feeling. Oh wow, yeah, you touch a point, yeah, absolutely. This is awesome, and please do that. And maybe if you have some kind of social, share those kind of sketches, because I think that most of people don't thinking at all to can do that. This is something that sometimes is going to surprise me a lot. People are not thinking to can do that. We have to open the community of miniature painting to other forms of art. This is my future goal. We need to try to do that. Alessio Michelucci, ciao Matteo, sono Alessio, ci sono io dall'Italia, finalmente qualcuno dall'Italia. Ciao Alessio. Ah, ok, prima, before there was also Massimiliano Cibelli, that I don't know if still here watching me. I understand that sometimes for Italians English could be a bit difficult, so I'm thinking to maybe open also a kind of format in Italian, but we have to find how to a bit. Oh, Tiziana. Oh yes, another Italian. Yeah, nice. Benjamin, I changed the scale last year. I'm going back on 40k minis just to get satisfaction of finishing. I wanted to finish competition 1 for War Model Expo, but it's very hard. Yeah, I stopped work on miniature for competition because it was stressing too much me. I won't come back to compete sometimes, but I won't approach it very smooth without rush. So when I will have some kind of special miniature painted very cool for competition, once will be ready, I will bring it in a competition, but I don't want any more painting for a specific date in mind, otherwise I will get too much stressed by the deadline and I will not perform the best. Sembra Shrek, potevi farla più verde. Ok, do not listen anything from I don't know Soph because she is here to sabotage me. So don't listen to her anyway. I wish we had the last competition and more exhibition. Yes, Alessandra, I thought the same. Our world is still stuck in this kind of never-ending performative challenge where you have to show your best result and you can be judged on your technical skill. But I mean, this is not something related to artistic process. I mean, sometimes, yes, it could be very funny entering a competition, in a challenge, but you cannot turn a whole world of people painting for, thinking about competition and also the stress of show results to the community. I would love to see more. I would love to see more exhibition. Absolutely, I thought the same. Absolutely. The reason why, I mean, I'm still getting invited to judge to many events, but I usually avoid doing that because sometimes the events are so big or the events are going to be very important in terms of competition And honestly, I do not feel comfortable because my idea about competition is totally different. Sometimes it's very cool. Sometimes I love as well joining it to challenge other people or to challenge especially myself. And for me, that's all. It's just a nice moment of the year where you can join an event, also in a competitive way, to challenge yourself. But that's all. I mean, the result on a competition doesn't matter to me anything. Totally anything. I will never judge someone if he has or not win something in a competition. If I like a paint job, if I like a style, I will like it. I don't need a competition to give me indication to, follow the right painter or the most important one. I can sabotage you so you can have dinner. Oh, I'm already hitting heart and passion, so I don't need to hit any kind of food. Not now. Okay. But honestly, I will stop here the live because my back is a bit injured, and I injured my back last week, so I'm not able to stand, to sit down for more than 2 hours painting. I'm working stand up during the day, so I won't close here this first episode. We already advertised another episode for the next Thursday, where I will introduce you on a brand new series made by Minor Games in cooperation with Kiki Miniature Mania. It will be a very interesting series because we are going to explore a kind of topic that I don't know how many companies explored before. The series will be the solar punk. So I will introduce you on one of those figures and we will start to paint together, but we will paint just for a while. Most of the time during the episode we will analyze all the art process that brought us to release that series. So I will show you artwork and I will show you also some sculpt. The next Tuesday we will see you again here painting together Witchhorn 3. I will try to bring her a bit further, so we will analyze another topic. So probably during the week I will paint the base. I will continue to upgrade and improve and enhance the midtones, especially on the lights and on the high midtones here. So the next time we will start to work maybe on to refine the face, to refine some detail, or something like that. So we will work a bit more on detail. I recorded the wall episode, so I will go to upload all the live episodes in a proper playlist on the channel. So again, thank you guys, and see you very, very soon. Bye bye. How I can close it?